The title of the message this evening is, You Don't Have to Fall. You don't have to fall. And, you know, there's a bunch of references that we're going to get into. Jude 24, we're going to wrap it up with that. And actually, I'll go ahead and read it right away. Jude verse 24 says this, Now to him that is able to keep you from falling, and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceeding joy. This is speaking, of course, of Christ. We don't have to fall. If we look to him in strength, we can overcome. And that's the encouragement. This is, if I had time, which I knew that Sunday night we got back from the wilds, there wasn't going to be time for a message. But if I had time to preach a message, then this would be it. And so I want to focus on that, a rededication to getting with those individuals, those young people. Hopefully you got their contact information, got their parents' permission for it. So you're like, who's this calling my child here? And you're doing that. You're encouraging them in the decisions that they made. And if not, it's not too late, all right? To get back with them, let them know that you're praying for them, and you want to see God do that work. And so this message is, yes, to the teens who made decisions, but hopefully we've all made decisions, and we're going forward with those decisions that we made for Christ. So, as believers, here's my proposition. As believers, we must keep our eyes fixed on Christ if we are to keep from falling. So, how many of you have fallen before? All right. Yeah, I think we could all raise our hand for that, right? So some of you are like, yeah, of course. I mean, I don't even need to bother raising my hand. That's a given. And there are many ways that we have fallen. And we could share some we could laugh about, others we would rather forget. But a lot of us can give personal examples. Now, how many of you, after falling, got up? All right, good. I'm glad to see you here. So, I mean, if you're still there, you probably wouldn't be here anymore. All right. So, there used to be a commercial for Lifeline Medical Alert. I don't know, maybe there still is. You guys remember that commercial? I got to be careful. You know, as a youth pastor, we kind of laugh at this kind of thing. We're like, yeah, I know it can be a serious thing. All right, it can be a serious thing. But I mean, it is, you know, the thing that was funny was it's a stage commercial. Okay, so you know this dear lady's not in peril. She's acting for the commercial. Help! I've fallen and I can't get up. And she's got her Lifeline Medical Alert, and she presses the button, and they're on the way. We need to get up when we fall. Sometimes we need a little assistance. So, these poor, mature individuals under those circumstances didn't really have a choice. They were physically powerless to get up on their own. Now, there's several ways that we can fall. There's deliberate, accidental, or assisted, right? Let's talk about the physical falling. You know, we can dive, right? There's professional divers that do this. They do cliff diving and other stuff. Like, I don't get that at all. That just, you know, I have a hard time with jumping off of a perfectly good, solid foundation from a long distance up, even if it's water or whatever else. So we did some cliff jumping in a certain area. I think maybe 30 feet. That's scary enough for me. Yes. 40 feet. Liam's saying it's 40 feet. I feel better about that now, okay? I'm a little braver than I thought. So, it was, you know, you're jumping out there, and you're telling yourself in your mind, okay, don't stick your arms out. You know, you get a pencil dive. You know, you can see the water where we're jumping off is crystal clear, but every time I do it, I'm like, whoa, what am I doing? I'm like, I did it. I'm doing this to myself. Why did I do this? And my arms go out, and then smack, and like, that does not feel good. All right, like I'm actually gonna fly away. I don't know. It's gonna slow my fall. But once you jump out there, gravity has its effect, and that's deliberate. skydiving, pool diving. Some people dive deliberately in soccer games. All right. Hey, but listen, for those of you who want to give soccer players a hard time for diving, which some do, when you're running over 20 miles in a game and you're going full speed and you get tripped up, you're going to lose it. You're going to wipe out. You're going to fall. So that it happens. So, yeah, if you want to be critical about that, don't be critical unless you play. All right. Deliberate falling. Then there's accidental. That's when you trip up, you slip up, you fall. Might be an unseen obstacle. Maybe you just get a little off balance, whatever. So there's deliberate, accidental, and then there's assisted, right? Have you guys ever done that before where someone gets behind the other person, right? And they kneel over and the other person's not looking, you're like, push them over. Trip them up a little bit. And I'm not recommending we do this, by the way. All right, this is things we shouldn't do. It's something you don't tell kids things they shouldn't do because they'll do it. But yeah, anyways, in someone sitting down in their chair, you pull their chair out before they have a chance to sit down, and they're like waiting. They're ready to just put all their weight down. And they're just they're gone. And somebody could be hurt, so let's not do that. It is kind of funny, but don't do that. All right, so physical. There's a physical falling. Then there's emotional, right? And this is a whole other topic to get into. We're not going to get into it tonight. Falling in love. All right. Head over heels in love. So, I believe, once again, love's a choice. That's deliberate. And then there's a falling out, which is an argument. Is this helping or not? Is this helping? Okay. All right. A little static. But, hey, a falling out. Now, it depends. It takes two to have an argument. It takes two to fight, right? It takes one person to maybe start it, and then you're going to argue who started it. Right, kids? He started it. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. Yeah. You guys don't do that, right? Never do that with siblings. Tease them, do that kind of thing. But yeah, you can have falling out an argument. So it's physical, there's emotional, then there's spiritual. Falling into sin. I'd say it could be accidental, it could be out of ignorance as we're learning the scriptures and not familiar with it. A new believer might fall into sin and not recognize it. Or it could very well be deliberate. And a falling away from God, the idea of backsliding. So the physical, emotional, spiritual, we're going to try to use some of the physical to illustrate how the spiritual fits in as well. So all of us have fallen. It'd be good practice to prepare for the fall then, right? So how about in a spiritual sense? So when you're learning to fall is a skill. You guys know that? Learning to fall is a skill. If you're playing sports, if you're in athletics, if you're in wrestling, martial arts, or whatever else, it is a skill to fall in a way that you won't harm yourself as badly and put yourself in a position to get back up. Now, my wife knows what's coming here. I've seen some of her soccer videos of when she was in high school. She would fall over and she'd like roll and she's right back up on her feet again, so she's ready to go. And that's the idea. You want to fall in a way that you're not going to hurt yourself and you can get yourself back in a position to get back up again, to get back into the game. So in the spiritual sense, first thing we need to understand and be aware of is that falling happens. Falling happens. So who will fall? Yeah, everyone. We're getting to it. Proverbs 24:16 says, "For a just man," even just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked fall into mischief. And then Isaiah 40:30 says, "Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall." There's a point in age where it becomes dangerous. A fall becomes more dangerous than others. And so this next slide here with some pictures. So we see that there's all ages and stages of falling. The little baby, it's kind of cute. He's going to be all right. They're resilient creatures, those little children. All right, cute little babies. And the after effect is the tears. The tears are coming, and you try not to laugh, whatever. Some of those things you're trying to hold that in. And have Steve Martin get in there. But anyways, that's let's say middle-aged person, right? I guess we could throw a teenager in there too. So the youths and young men, and I wanted to be careful too with the senior saint falling there too, because I don't want to make fun of that because that can be serious. But that guy looks like he's enjoying his shot right there. Like that looks a little bit staged. So
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm sorry, she does not understand. But hopefully you all understand. I'm talking about that. Falling happens. Who will fall? All ages, all stages of life. Falling happens. Everyone falls. So why does one fall? Let's look at this. Why does one fall? Number one, herd heart. Yeah, this is where it passes spell check, but yeah, a hard heart. All right, so we can't edit that right now, but just edit that in your notes. All right, fix that there. Oh yeah, by the way, this morning I had a few mentions. Some of you are probably wondering about that too. That NASCAR drivers can drive faster than the speed of light. If you didn't know that, 186 miles per hour. That's pretty fast, but it's not the speed of light. Okay. So sometimes we make some mistakes there. 186,000 miles per second. All right? All right, there we go. Is that better? Ever got that? I know some of you I had a few people come up to me, Pastor Matt, I appreciate the message, but yeah. I was like, at least it's not a theological error, but all right. So I'll just blame that. I got that from Bill 9. All right, No. Yes, so that's important. That's corrected. So a hard heart, that's what that should be saying. Stubbornness. Proverbs 28:14. Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief. So one of the reasons that we fall is that we have a hard heart towards God, towards the Scriptures. We're not soft as God touches our heart, as the Holy Spirit moves in our life and shows us and leads us and guides us what we should do, what we should not do, and we harden our hearts to God. I'm going to do it anyway. And we fall into sin. We fall into mischief and the consequences that come with that. Number two, no counsel or poor counsel. Proverbs 11:14 says, where no counsel is, the people fall. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. That's a wonderful thing about having a church like Evangel. And even relating to the meeting that we had this afternoon, I shared with them some things. I tried to be careful not to. I was like, here's my vision, but before I brought my vision, I wanted to see, okay, are we kind of in agreement with what things that we need to do going forward? What could be a blessing to this ministry if we could see some things done here? And before this is what I think we need to do. There's a multitude of counselors and people who have that wisdom, who have experience with building and other things, just asking them, okay, what do you all think about this? What do you think the next step should be? It keeps us from making unwise decisions and having people that you can go to and listen, seek out godly counsel. That people who walk with the Lord who are going to have that wisdom and experience. And I say this specifically because I was a youth pastor for many years and encouraging people that, hey, listen, there's a lot of experience in our church. And for that matter, your parents know a whole lot more than we want to give them credit for. Go to them. Seek out their counsel. Talk to your pastor about it. Talk to other people like, hey, I'm thinking about this. I'm making this decision going forward. What do you think about that? And see what they have to say. And as a church, as a body of believers, we're a family. We are looking out for each other's needs, and we want to see everyone succeed in here. So use that counsel. So one falls and there's no counsel or poor counsel. I want to do this, I'm just going to go forward and do it, and not thinking things through. Number 3, trusting in things other than God. Proverbs 11:28 says, "He that trusteth in riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch." You know what? Don't trust in riches or resources or other things. You might have a lot. God might have blessed you with a lot. But that doesn't make us right, for that matter. Once again, we need to trust in Him. Going forward, we need to continually trust in God. And sometimes that's why God blesses us with not having that exceeding abundant riches. And sometimes, like Kyle mentioned in his testimony, sometimes it's down to that time where like, oh, this is kind of scary. And then you see God step in and work. And you see a prayer answered in such a timely manner, and you know this is God. This didn't happen by accident. God loves me. God meets my needs. Not always in my timing. His timing is perfect. And so we can see that. So that your coworker that you're being a witness to can see that God is good. And God takes care of His own. So trust in God. When we tend to trust in other things other than God and our own resources, and God, I don't need you for this, or God, you're busy. I got this. We make that mistake. We're setting ourselves up for failure. Number 4, actually, pride. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Once again, that's that idea of, I got this, God. This little matter here, if a big enough problem comes along, then I'll seek you out, God. Then I'll seek your wisdom. Then I'll seek counsel. Then I'll do that. But right now, I've got this. And I can ask for raised hands. How many of us have made that mistake before? And like, man, I didn't think of this or that. Boy, I should have asked God about this. It could have saved me a lot of trouble. Pride. 1 Corinthians 10:12 says, "Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed, lest he fall." It might be an area of the decision that you've made, and you're going forward, and you have that desire that I'm going to do this by God's grace. You say that, but I got this. I'm going to make this decision. I'm going to stay firm with this commitment. I'm going to stay in the Word. We're not looking to Him. We're not like, God, help me. I need you. I need you, like the song, I need you every hour. I need you every minute of every hour. I need you, God. I need your help. So that is why one falls. No one is above falling, no matter how young you are, or on the other spectrum, how mature you are, no matter how righteous you are, you can fall. So what is the next logical step after you fall? Get up, right? That's the next point. Get up. Don't give up. Get up. So why do we get up? In the physical sense, like, duh, because if you stay down, you might as well be dead. You're useless. You can't do much while you're laying there on the ground. And that's why it's important to understand how to rebound, how to quickly get back on your feet, to get back in the fight. It used to be, we did a junior camp, and actually, the guys got these, for us, they got these enclosures. I forget what they're called. We used them in the fellowship hall a while back, a year or so ago, and where you're encased inside these inflatable suits, and you can run around. And I was like, let's try soccer with this. Of course I love soccer, so let's try that. We're running into each other, and then we just let's just see if we can knock each other off our feet, and people are getting knocked back. The good thing is about those, as opposed to some of the tubes you wear around there, is when you fall back, you don't hit your head. We used to play at these inner tubes with the kids, and they're running and knocking each other back and forth, and we had to have someone behind them to catch them in case they hit the back. They wouldn't have any serious injuries there. But it could be fun. It could be kind of scary to be knocked off balance, and you can kind of come in and go low and hit them hard and see them when their feet lift off the ground and they're just like kicking up. If you're not touching anything solid, you're off balance. You're going to fall back. And but yeah, it's important to learn to get back up again. So, once again, the word I'm looking for, if you fall in this area, you're not moving, you're stagnant, you're stale, you're inanimate, you're no longer functioning, operating, or productive, lacking power to move, feel, or respond. What's another word that would kind of define all of this? You are dead, right? You're no longer, you're like, someone's falling on the ground, you're like, maybe they're not dead, maybe they're just unconscious or whatever, but like, hey, you okay there? Check their pulse to see if there's blood flowing in their body. Is this person okay? Because it's not normal just to stay down, stay in that position. It shouldn't be normal for us as believers when we fall to stay in that position, right? So we say that's foolishness in the physical. Yeah, okay, you fall. Okay, if you're hurt, you need to stay there. Maybe we need to get a stretcher. Yeah, stretcher. And put them on there. I remember. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but I was in a car accident. It was pretty serious when I was 17. I'll leave out a lot of the details. But the one thing I remember is when they told me I had to get on this stretcher, and I was already standing up there. They're like, no, you got to get down in here because you've been in this accident. There could be spinal injury. So they strapped me into this thing, and they put me in the ambulance and carried me off there just in case there was any injuries that I didn't know about. So you're incapacitated in that area. But when we find out the person's okay, they've recovered, now let's help them back up. Let's get back up again. And somehow spiritually, when we've fallen so many times, we have that desire that we kind of want to give up. That's our natural response. Like, I failed so many times. I am so tired of failing. And if I don't get back up, then maybe I won't fall again. And I won't have to go through that process of humiliation, that difficult process of falling. I'm just going to stay here. And sadly, there's so many Christians that are living defeated lives today because they're like, I'm tired. I'm just not going to do this anymore. I can't do it. I can't. You're right. You can't. But God can. God can do that work in you. So we need to get up. We need to get up. James 2, in verses 17 and 20, James exclaims, faith without works is dead. As believers, we're to move on beyond the idea of like, well, I've got faith. Well, and I love how James explains it. And he, like, once again, okay, you show me your faith without your works. How are you going to do that? You can't. The only way that your faith is displayed to others is through your works. Now, I say, well, God knows my heart. Well, if your heart is truly with God, then your outward is going to show what's on the inside. It's going to show that change in life. It's not contradictory at all to the Pauline epistles. Your faith is evidenced by your works. It's not your faith, not your works that save you, but without works, people aren't going to see God in your life. And you're not going to be able to show Christ to others. So our works display what Christ has done in us. So if you're not growing spiritually or actively serving God, then you are spiritually dead, is what verse 18 is saying. That's not where we need to be spiritually. We're spiritually dead. We need to be active, spiritually alive. You say, I can't help it. I just keep sinning in the same area. I've tried everything. You know how many times I've heard that? I've tried it, and I've tried it, and I've failed, and I've failed, and I've failed, and I just can't do it. God can. Hebrews 4:15 says, for we have not an high priest which cannot be touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted, like as we are, yet without sin. Jesus Christ set that example. And once again, those that argue because Jesus Christ is God, therefore he cannot sin, therefore he wasn't truly tempted like we are, because he can't sin. But that's not the case. The fact is that when we give in to sin, there's somewhat of a relief, right? Because, okay, the pressure, and finally you give in, and you no longer have that pressure. Like, oh, it's almost relieving, and then you have the consequences that come. But Christ experienced the full brunt of that temptation because never once did he succumb to that temptation. He never once failed. So whatever you're going through, no matter how difficult the trials, no matter how difficult the temptation that you're going through, Christ knows it well. He's experienced it, and he's overcome it. And there to tell you that you, through his strength, can do the same. So you say that just because he was God, and we're only human. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says this, there hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. You know what? The very things that you're facing and tempted with, it's not unique to you. There are many other people who are facing the same trials, the same temptations, and are able to overcome through the strength that God has supplied. There is no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you're able. There's no temptation that's going to come your way that's too great to bear with his strength. If you look to God and his strength, you can overcome any temptation. So again, I state that you don't have to sin. You don't have to fall. But will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. There's always an escape door. There's always an exit sign that's lit up. Say, I can't face this. We need to run for the exit. Let's say, I'm going to see how this is going to strengthen me through this trial, through this temptation. I'm just going to hang around here. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm just going to hang around in this bar here and see how long I can hold out. No, get out. Flee temptation. Flee those areas where you're struggling. Get away from those things. Look to Christ, and he can give you the strength that you need. So the answer, once again, why do we get up? Simple solution. Simple answer is we can't do anything while lying down. We're of no use to God if we allow sin in our lives. God always gives you an escape. So you can't say the devil made me do it. And once again, the devil is blamed for a whole lot of things that he's actually not guilty of. He's a horrible person. He hates you, and he would love for you to fall into sin. He'd love to destroy your life. But he's only one being who can only be at one place at a time. He's not omnipresent like God. So I believe very few of us have directly encountered Satan himself. He does have a third of the angels of heaven and demons are on the earth. So there is satanic oppression. There is demonic oppression. But we also have our flesh that oftentimes is what causes us to fall when we try to do things in our own strength and our own flesh. And that's the pride, once again, that causes us to fall. So we know that we need to get up. So how do we get up? How do we get up? Psalm 37:24 says, though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. When we fall, God's hand is outstretched to us as a loving father saying, let me help you back up. I understand that you've blown it here. I still love you. I want to help you back up. Let me help you back up. And sometimes we just lay there. Psalm 118:13 says, "Thou hast thrust sore at me that I might fall, but the Lord help me." Psalm 145:14 says, "For the Lord upholdeth all that fall, and raiseth up all those that are bowed down." God answers pleas for help. And if you read through the Psalms and you look at the psalmists, how they lay those things out, God, help me in these areas. My enemies are strong, they're overcome. This is what I'm facing. This is what I'm going through. And we need to go as a psalmist to the Lord and look to him for strength, look to him for help, and be reminded that his hand is outstretched to us, that we can through him have the victory. How do we get up? The answer is trust in the Lord. Call out to him for help, and he will always be there to pick you up and set you back on solid ground. Thirdly, this goes along with this is the title of the message and third point, you don't have to fall. It's, we all do fall. We have fallen. We will fall. But you don't have to. It can be prevented. And it's better to prevent the fall, right, than to learn how to get up. We need to learn to get back into the fight. But if we can prevent ourselves from falling, that's even better, right? Staying on our feet, learning to keep our balance, setting up preventative measures. Looking at Matthew chapter 14, and I don't have time to get into it right now, but verses 22 through 31, I'm not going to read all those verses, but this is when the disciples were out at sea, right, and the storm comes. The storm is gone right now. It's not too bad outside, right? But when the storm came, I think it was this past Wednesday, it was wind was blowing, rain was going every which way. And you see that, and if you can imagine with being out on a boat with all that going on and then being tossed to and fro, and all of a sudden in the distance you see somebody on the water. Okay, we read that like, oh, cool. Put yourself in that situation, that might not be your initial thought. Like, this is kind of scary. What is going on here? That's not humanly possible, what's going on. And so Christ was walking towards them. We see here in this chapter, Matthew chapter 14. And Jesus, in verse 27, says, "But straightway Jesus spake unto them, saying, Be of good cheer. It is I. Be not afraid." Thought it was some kind of ghost or specter, because man can't walk on water. And Peter answered and said, "Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water." I just don't know what all was going through Peter's mind. I mentioned this earlier, but I think that wherever Christ was, Peter wanted to be immediately with him. And no one else had the boldness to do that. We always want to criticize for, oh man, he lacked faith. He's the only one to get out there on the water. And Christ said, "Come." And Peter was come down out of the ship and walked on the water to go to Jesus. That's awesome. The waves, whatever else, I don't know how. All these thoughts kind of go through my mind because I ask myself all kinds of questions thinking about what would that be like? What would it feel like to be able to walk on the water? Was he barefoot and you could feel how deep did his feet go into the water as he's walking on the water? All these other things, and how amazing would that be? But when he saw the winds was boisterous, he was afraid, and he began to sink and cried, "Lord, save me." So how is he able to do that supernatural feat? It's not natural. If you've tried it before, I'm not talking about some of you do the barefoot skiing, all right? And it looks pretty cool. It looks like almost people are like walking on water. But to be able to do that, but yet then, why did he fall? Took his eyes off Jesus. Peter couldn't walk on water. Nobody can walk on water but God is able to do that. But when he put his eyes on Christ, Christ enabled him to do what he couldn't do on his own. That showed his faith in his connection with Christ, and as he's drawing closer to Christ, But what happened? He got distracted. He started looking around and like, man, this is exciting. But he's getting further away from the ship, from the safety, from knowing he could be pulled in. And he's out there, and the lightning is coming down, and the thunder is crashing, and the waves are smashing against the ship. I could be a little bit distracted by that. I don't know about you. And his eyes were off Christ, and he began to sink. I love verse 31. It says, and immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him. I don't know how far Christ was out at the time, or what distance he made closer to Christ during that time. But Christ was right where he needed to be at that point in time. I don't know if he's off in the distance and he just teleported there immediately and pulled him back up. And he said to him, O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt? You took your eyes off me. I was your strength. When your faith and trust was in me, you could do supernatural things. The same is for us as believers. When our faith and trust is in Christ, we can do supernatural things as we look to him. And we don't try to do things in our own strength. But what do we tend to do when life gets difficult? Man, have you seen gas prices? Man, I hear that they're going to make room for another digit on there. You know, eggs used to be 79 cents. Used to be a lot less than that. But I remember buying eggs for 79. Now they're like $4 to $5 for a dozen eggs. That's crazy. Talked to Mr. Pruitt. He says they're going to probably get up to $10. I wonder if our HOA is going to allow a chicken coop in our back patio area. It's like, this is crazy. And we start to get distracted. We start to take our eyes off Christ, and we start to worry. What's going to happen? Am I going to be able to feed my family? Am I going to be able to pay for gas to get to the place I need to get the food? We need to get the Flintstone mobile so we can pedal whatever. We need to get some. We're talking about getting a tandem bicycle or something so we can all take turns riding to church in pedal power. Get there. I don't know. But once again, how are we going to make it? God will provide. I'm not saying we need to be irresponsible. There's ways we need to plan and prepare. But once again, don't get so caught up in fear that we're not trusting in God. And that's what happened to Peter here. So once again, he was the only one that stepped out. And I don't know how many of us would have even thought to do that. And then what happened? And when he's brought back in the ship, and when they were come into the ship, the wind ceased, and it was calm. You see that from the storm to, can you imagine the seas calm as glass? Something that only our God can do. So Peter walks on water because his focus is on Christ. Don't walk blindly. You see the blind leading the blind. Scripture talks about that. It's not the wisest thing. You want someone who can see to give direction. The blind leading the blind is not going to help a whole lot. I remember an activity that we had when I was younger, and I was a sponsor kid, so I got to hang out with the teens a lot. I enjoyed that, and we're playing tag. Dangerous game to play. David found that out in more than one occasion. But I am running in the dark, looking over my shoulder. Oh, they're not going to catch me. I'm too fast. I'm so fast. Like little Jeremiah or Ben. All right, so I'm running, looking back behind me, and then I run full speed, smack into a tree. And guess what? The tree didn't move. All right? It did not feel good. But yeah, it's good to look ahead. Look at the direction ahead of you. Psalm 119, 105 says, Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. We need to look to God's word to enlighten our path, to see the path ahead. Second Peter chapter 1, verses 5 through 9 focuses on this too. It talks about faith, virtue, knowledge, temperance, self-control, patience, godliness, brotherly kindness, love, all of these things in us are abounding. Without these things, we are blind, we are nearsighted, we are focused on temporal things of this world. We need to not walk blindly. Secondly, we need to keep our eyes fixed on Christ. Keep your eyes fixed on Christ. You know, some would argue, they would attack our faith in Christianity in saying that your faith in Christ is a crutch, as if that's an insult. And to that I would say, oh no, it's so much more than that. I realize in my own strength I can't do anything. He's more than a crutch. He's everything. I can't do anything without him. That's how dependent we should be on Christ. He is so much more than that. And I'm so thankful that he wants to be all of those things for us, that he is there, and he does love us and care for us and have all those things planned out for us. 2 Peter 1 verse 10 says, Wherefore rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure, for if you do these things, ye shall never fall. Man, I don't want to fall. You know, falling isn't fun. So once again, better to prevent the fall in the first place. Keep our eyes fixed on Christ. Well, why do we still fall? We take our eyes off Christ. So my encouragement to you this evening is keep your eyes fixed on him. Stay in the Word. Let him guide you through his wise counsel. Peter exclaims twice to be diligent. Eternal security, your election must never be an excuse for human laziness. The Christian who is sure of his salvation will never stumble, but will prove by a constant life that he is truly a child of God. He will not always be on a mountaintop, but he will always be climbing higher. Always be looking to Christ, always focusing on him. We have our hills, we have our valleys, but always striving to grow closer to him. Falling happens, so get up. But also remember, you don't have to fall.